And I'm going to the member for Ballina.
Mr Speaker, and I rise to contribute to the debate on workers' compensation legislation amendment bill. And Mr Speaker, can I say that I'm flawed. I'm flawed to think that a party that I've always regarded, regardless of criticisms, I've always regarded as absolutely the ally of workers. And whilst we have seen some great reforms in terms of the industrial relations and wages and salaries, what I cannot stomach is the fact that this is nothing to do with this, the raison d'etre for this is nothing to do with workers. It is entirely about the budget. It is entirely about the bean counters and the treasurer saying that he needed savings. And then to see good people standing here and defending that, it is making me physically ill, because I know what it is like I have been an injured worker. I was a Federation rep for nearly 20 years supporting injured teachers. I was a relieving welfare officer in the Teachers Federation supporting hundreds of injured workers. And I know what it's like from their perspective. And it is nothing like the nonsense that we are hearing here. The culture of workers' compensation does need reform. This bill does absolutely nothing to transform that culture. It does nothing to return workers to work sooner. What it does, and I want to focus on, is the whole person impairment for psychological injury. It discriminates against workers who are injured psychologically, who are often injured physically as well, and it discriminates against them, and it conflates the idea that it promotes the idea that the injured worker should be paying for the budget blowout. Mr Speaker, these are serious matters, and let's not forget that the O'Farrell government tried this and the outcome was so heinous that they reversed it. And I'm very pleased to see that the coalition are not supporting this. So the idea that a Labor government, that I'm standing here today and that is a Labor government reviving the failed policy of the O'Farrell government because it was so heinous, they are reviving that and they are dressing it up as though somehow this is about workers, is absolutely rubbish. I have no idea why the Minns Labor government is waging a war on the most vulnerable workers in this state. I have no idea why they are staring down their unions on this matter. They must think they can just get away with it. We have no idea why it's being rushed through. Even when we've been told that, as we heard from former speakers, that this will make no difference to the insurance premiums in the near future. No difference whatsoever. So what can we believe? The argument being prosecuted is that this law needs to be rushed through is a lie. This law will shift the burden of prevention and workplace health and safety from government to injured workers, and particularly my experience of working with injured teachers, mostly women. And we also heard from my colleague Jenny Leong about nurses and what that looks like. And I want to commend the work of our spokesperson in the other house, in the other place, Abigail Boyd. And as I say, Mr Speaker, I'm no stranger to the impact of workers' compensation laws on workers. How many MPs in this place have any idea what it's like to be injured in the workplace and to navigate the brutal and clunky system? So there's lots of lines that were being used today about the reforms that are needed, and I completely agree. I completely agree. But the idea that this savagery, the savagery on the threshold to meet for psych injury in particular, that is going to be a boon for workers, it's complete nonsense. So let's visit what it is like. So a worker who was injured through no fault of their own, and I mentioned teachers and nurses in particular, because they are overrepresented in psych injuries in this state. And they've often suffered a physical injury as well. And so let's give some examples, Madam Speaker. Examples are seeing someone die in the workplace, seeing someone killed in the workplace, being threatened to be killed, having weapons at a person's, being held hostage, being trapped, being smashed into a wall, on and on and on. These are not trivial matters, and I know that the Minister is well aware she would be seeing horrendous things in her job. So let's not sugarcoat it. We're talking about serious injuries. But to meet that 15% as it is now, It is so high. I honestly have hardly ever supported anyone who met that threshold. And the notion that you could double that +1 is really beggars belief. And Madam Speaker, spare a thought for how long it often takes for an injured worker to realise that they've had a psych injury. Because someone who's experienced a life-threatening attack does not necessarily know, or has had a physical injury, does not necessarily know that the reason that they're not sleeping, that the reason they're thinking of buying a gun, that the reason that they're having these disturbing and intrusive thoughts is because they've had a psychological injury. That can take 5 or 6 weeks for someone to realise, I'm not doing well, and to then go to their doctor. And so the clock has already started. And I mean, I've worked in workplaces out west where, you know, an injured teacher was told just to go to the pub and have a couple of drinks. And that's not that long ago. So the culture is still so wanting. They get their work cover certificate from the doctor, and then they may or may not get provisional payments. And I know I'm leaving that aside, the changes to the provisional payment scheme. And while they're waiting to be assessed, which can take many, many months. And in regional New South Wales, to be able to see an approved psychiatrist to have that assessment can take 12+ weeks. Where is that being factored in this? Then there's the whole question of return to work. And I completely agree that we want workers to return. But this bill does absolutely nothing to support that. It does nothing to support prevention, and it does nothing to get that worker back in. Because what we're talking about when we're talking about whole of person impairment is that a person has been so damaged that they simply can't go back to work. And so the idea that you would raise that bar and say that that's to give you the savings to pay for this scheme is disgusting. The Australian Association of Psychologists underscores that the status quo for 15% whole person impairment reflects a severe life-altering impairment. This is 15%, leaving individuals unable to function independently in critical domains such as work, relationships and daily living. So what the Labor government is putting to us today is that that's not enough. That's not enough for lifetime support. That's not enough. They've got to double that. And I can tell you that that is extreme. According to the Australian Association of Psychologists, a 15% whole person impairment already represents severe life-altering trauma. Raising the bar to 31% is beyond unreasonable. It's almost beyond, it is someone who is scheduled. It is someone who is living in residential care. And it's a staggering concept to think that is happening here today. At the parliamentary inquiry into these changes, iCare New South Wales stated that of the 12,000 current psychological injury claimants, that under this law, that there will be only 27 people out of 12,000 that would meet the proposed 31% impairment. Now, I may have that wrong, Minister, but that's the statistic that I was shown. Madam Speaker, we say to the Labor government, how dare you deny injured workers care and rehabilitation to save money? There are other ways you can reduce premiums. And you seek to save money rather than provide a scheme that will see permanently impaired workers supported through their lives. Injured workers do want to get back to work, but the processes and bureaucratic gaps and silences that they are subjected to pathologises them to the point of no return. We've only got to look at what veterans go through. People who are injured in the workplace, it is not dissimilar. And that is the area of reform that you need to focus on. The system right now is utterly flawed. It's the culture, it's the management, it's the triage of claims. It is not this part of it. It is not the changing the levels of impairment. As Unions New South Wales note, few of the proposed actions reflect a shift towards prioritising prevention and early resolution. Instead, their dominant effect is to significantly hinder workers from seeking and obtaining compensation for psychological injuries. In fact, and I quote from them, there is nothing in this bill which directly goes to improving prevention. My heart goes out to every person who has ever had a psychological injury in the workplace. The Greens will not be supporting this, and we really hope that today this bill ends.